Hey everyone, this is the second part of last week's episode. If you didn't hear it, hit pause, go back a week to catch up.
In-home, assisted living, and assisted living will also cover a variety of illnesses and the care that your loved one will need. My mother needed not a lot of care for the fact that, like I've said before, I did her pills. She had a automatic pill dispenser that I could control and set up actually through an app. I will also talk about that in another episode. It's called the Hero. We will discuss that. It was a life changer for me. But she needed shower standby. So that was a great thing, assisted living, that she was able to have shower standby. So yes, she could still wash herself, but she needed someone in the bathroom to be able to help her, so she didn't fall, she didn't slip. If she dropped the soap, they could help her. They could help her get dressed. She didn't, after a while, she did have a fall one time where she hit her wrist and lost the dexterity.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexi Calise. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in.
Going back to when you're looking at assisted living, we talked about activities, those kinds of things. When you're doing tours, what are you looking for? What other things are you looking at while you're walking around that maybe as a loved one, as a family member, I'm not thinking about or noticing that maybe your trained eye being in there in that situation might notice and be like, why are for example, and things it's things like when I walk into a situation, or especially when it's someone is supposed to be caring for someone, I have the mentality, if you can lean, you got time to clean. So I'm looking to make sure that people aren't on their phones. Like those kinds of things. I'm like, why are you on your phone? What you doing? Like, it's not break time. If it's break time, you don't need to be hanging out at the nurse's station. You need to be in the break room. Because otherwise, to me, it gives the impression that there could be things you could be doing, but you're choosing not to do them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're looking for those kinds of things
too. There's all kinds of things that, do you see AC vents that look dirty or rusty? Do you see caregivers on their phones or taking to the breaks in a public place?
Right.
Eating lunch in a public place, or do you see staff just looking like they don't care? But are they happy? Are they greeting you, or are they making eye contact?
Yes.
Of course, any odors. Sometimes an odor in a community can be from them not taking the trash out in a timely manner. And so that can kind of be an excuse for why there's an odor, but it can sure turn you off immediately.
It can. So there's certain smells that would turn me off for sure, because it just comes across as not being cleanly. The cleanliness level might not be there. And there could be an excuse for it. Like she said, it could be the garbage. It could be that someone sadly had an accident or something happened and they are cleaning it up at that moment, and you just happen to be there at that time. That's why I went to both locations twice, 2 different times, 2 different days. So when I was touring for my mom before she went to respite care to try out the locations, I went twice. Because then if I smelled something weird or saw something, am I seeing it a second time? So because if I come back a week later at a different day and a different time and I'm still seeing the same things, then to me that would have come across as a red flag. Or am I seeing things that are super positive and I'm seeing them multiple times, and that also gives me a better feeling that yes, I can entrust my loved one by being in this location.
And can you meet any of the other managers? Can you meet the cook or the chef, or can you meet the maintenance director? What's their attitude like? What's what's the management team like? Any of that helps. And like I said, the air vents, just stuff
little
like
things,
that.
Little things.
Because, those are people that are going to be serving your loved one 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not there.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
No, and it's always good when you do find a location that's good for your family. Show up at different times, different days. Don't have a set schedule that they know that you're coming. Because even if it is some of the highest quality, most expensive, that doesn't mean that someone's be like, ooh, here she comes. Here comes Lexi. We know it's Saturday at 2:00. She's going to come in. We got to put on the dog and pony show. They might not do that, but some people might do it intentionally. And so I always say, show up all the time, different times of the day, different days of the week, with family members, by yourself, whatever it is. Then they never know.
Yeah.
They always got to be on their toes. And they are wonderful caregivers. I'm not saying that they're not. They are great caregivers. It's just good to kind of keep them on their toes sometimes, because you might catch something that you wouldn't see if you come at a set time all the time. Especially if your loved ones have trouble communicating. Mm-hmm. As they deteriorate or just don't have the ability to communicate with you all the time, then that's when you have to be, I find, more diligent. They might in their head want to tell you something, but they can't tell it to you, and then you're able to catch it.
Yeah.
That's what we did with my dad. He couldn't communicate for a long time. At the end, he lost his executive functioning to speak. And so my mom and I were in and out of his facility all the time, just seeing things so that we could say, we've like even little things like so-and-so, because in a memory care facility, sometimes you have residents who wander in and out of other residents' rooms, and my dad's pillow would go missing. We were the ones who caught it because he couldn't tell us. Yeah. We're like, wait, that pillow was here yesterday or the day before. Where did it go? And they knew that someone was a collector. Mm-hmm. And so he would kind of wander around and he would collect things. And if you went into his room, then you might find what you were looking for.
Yeah. That's
so
common.
It is common. Yes, it is very common. But it was those little things that I found that,
And on that note, you do have the right to have a camera in your loved one's apartment.
Yes, you do.
And although it may seem like an invasion of your loved one's privacy, you have the right to do that. But you have to have a sign outside the door saying that you do have a camera in there. But that's for his safety. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of know what's going on.
Right.
And, you can find out who took the pillow.
You can find out who took the pillow.
Or I remember having a resident who would hide her things because she felt like someone was taking her belongings. Mm-hmm. Or her family was taking her belongings, but she would forget where she hid things.
Oh.
And so her daughter would call and tell us she put her glasses in her socks, So thank you. We'll get her glasses out for socks. Yes. So that would help.
Yeah. But my mother has a camera in her room.
Okay.
She did at her other location also, and it was really for her safety, because if my mother were to fall or slip out of bed or whatever it might be, the facility can only tell you what they find. They can't say what happened. And for me, it was really important for me to know what happened. So, she thought she was on the edge of or she was too far on the edge of the bed and just slipped off the bed, and she really didn't hurt herself. But then I could tell them that. Or she really did trip and fall and hit hard, and we do need to have her looked at, whatever it is. But then that happened one time. She was changing her pants and got distracted and got up and actually tripped with her pants not all the way up. Mm-hmm. And I was able to go back on the video. They did call the EMTs because she said her hip hurt. Uh-huh. So they legally they call the EMTs. They called me, said this is what happened. I said, okay, fine. But then I was able to show the doctors at the hospital, this is what happened. No, she did not hit her head. This is how she fell. And so that really gave them more information than guessing. Okay. And luckily we did all the x-rays and everything came back clean. Everything was fine. She didn't really hurt herself. Okay. But that's why I put a camera in her room.
Mhm.
I could go days. I really don't look at the camera unless I get a call. So I could have to do a group select and delete 1,000 videos, but I've never looked at them.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to see my mom changing or sleeping in her, taking a nap in her chair or whatever it is. She does have a roommate right now, and my mom's camera only sees my mom's side of her room, and her roommate was more than happy to allow my mom to have a camera. So that is something you have to talk about with the loved ones of possible roommates, that they're okay with having a camera, because if they don't give consent, then you can't have a camera.
Yeah.
Which is tough. Even if you do tell them, here, look, here, this is how the room, here, I'm showing it to you. This is all I see.
Yeah.
If they don't give consent, then you have to go without.
Yeah.
So I lucked out that we were able to get consent for the camera.
That's good.
Which was helpful.
Yeah. The same family, they saw that their mother had moved furniture up against the door because she didn't want to let our staff inside the apartment.
Okay.
So that was dangerous.
Yes, that's a fire hazard.
But this little frail woman did it strong enough to move her love seat up against the door.
That's impressive.
Pretty impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yeah.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
But
when she was living at home alone, she was living in a duplex that was for 55 and up seniors. Okay. And she had a family member that would cause a lot of agitation and anxiety.
Oh, that's hard.
And they put the camera up to prove that this loved one was causing this stress, you know. And so they did get that proof on camera, but that's when they discovered this other behavior of mom's leaving the front door open all night long.
Oh, no.
You know, and mom's answering the door to strangers.
Oh,
and,
yes.
You know, and so it's like, oh, mom,
that's hard. The solicitors are hard.
Oh, they could get taken advantage of so easily.
Oh, so easily. Especially, and now we have to, it's not door-to-door solicitors we're worried about. It's scammers on the phone, which we will have another episode about, because I could do a whole thing about scammers on the phone. And the kinds of phones you can get and set up to that are senior safe, that are work for dementia patients. There's so many things. We will talk about that in a different episode though. So we've discussed in-home, assisted living, and assisted living will also cover a variety of illnesses and the care that your loved one will need. My mother needed not a lot of care for the fact that, like I've said before, I did her pills. She had a automatic pill dispenser that I could control and set up actually through an app. I will also talk about that in another episode. It's called the Hero. We will discuss that. It was a life changer for me. But she needed shower standby. So that was a great thing, assisted living, that she was able to have shower standby. So yes, she could still wash herself, but she needed someone in the bathroom to be able to help her. So she didn't fall, she didn't slip. If she dropped the soap, they could help her. They could help her get dressed. She didn't, after a while, she did have a fall one time where she hit her wrist and lost the dexterity to be able to put her bra on by herself. So
skip the bra.
Well, you know, she won't do that. She's no. She wakes up, that thing goes on. It only comes off when she goes to bed. So she lost that dexterity, so the staff was able to help her with that. So with her level of care, she was able to get shower standby. They were able to help her with getting dressed in the morning and then changing at night. And then at the very end, before she moved to her new memory care facility, they also would go in and just remind her, hey, Miss Peggy, it's 6 a.m. It's 7 a.m. It's time to take your pills. And she knew what to do to take care of her pills. So they did not dispense her pills, but they could give her a reminder to dispense her pills, which took a lot of stress off of me, because I could get, the little machine would ding me saying, hey, Peggy's 15 minutes late taking her pills. And I would get stressed out wondering, where is she? Is she okay? Did she forget it? Is she going to get the medication she needs on time? Because she has very timely set medications according to how long they last within her system.
Great.
So that was helpful. And I know other people, depending on their level of care and assisted living, will also get more care. So if you needed level 3 care, that might include pills, that might include incontinence care, that might include giving the person a shower themselves, like actually bathing the resident. There's just all sorts of things. So that is definitely something when you go to assisted living to ask about, like what comes with each level of care, so that you are aware and they can help with that. Then there's memory care. Memory care is different than assisted living. And I've experienced it now twice. I'm newly experiencing it with my mother, and it has a different it's in a different situation, and her abilities are different than what my dad had. So I've seen both sides, because my dad mentally was not able, but he physically was still able to walk and do those things. Whereas my mother does have some mental decline, but her problem really is physical. So that's hard. So I've seen both sides that come with.
What has she been diagnosed?
So she has multiple systems atrophy with Parkinsonianisms.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it's a mouthful, and it's a venture. So it's an adventure, to say the least. And like I said, my dad had frontal temporal dementia. For those who don't know, when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's, it is almost considered the orphan disease of dementia and Alzheimer's, because when you look at Alzheimer's as a whole umbrella, it is maybe 2 to 3% of those full patients have frontal temporal dementia. I would like to say that this is the same thing that Bruce Willis has. And sadly, I would not ever want anybody to have this affliction or disease, but I am thankful for the fact that someone so famous as him has this and is able to bring it out to the open and to have people talk about it, because I don't think it's obviously not as well known as other forms of dementia. So I really feel for his family. I really do know what they're going through. It's not easy to see someone be afflicted with that. And my dad was diagnosed at 63, so he was young, and he had it for 10 years. So he passed away when he was 73. So I've seen it all. But like I said, memory care. When it comes to memory care, what are you looking for?
Well, you just don't know how quickly the disease will progress, but it is a progressive disease.
Yes.
They can't reverse the disease.
No.
However, at the same time, there's different diseases that may present itself as if it were dementia, and it's not dementia. So it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is very frustrating.
Your loved one might have a UTI.
Yes.
And that is treatable with an antibiotic, and then all of a sudden they don't have dementia, or the symptoms of dementia.
Yes.
And all they had was a UTI. So that's something you want to test for if they start having strange behaviors. Is let's get you to the doctor and see if you have a UTI, even though they may not have burning sensations of a UTI. If they're acting strangely, it might just be an infection of some type.
Yes.
So, and then I've read that it could be a blood sugar problem. So,
yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah, you need a good doctor's evaluation and diagnosis, and then a recommendation from a neurologist, and get a good diagnosis and testing to see if there is dementia.
Yes.
And then what kind of dementia.
Yes.
And which part of the brain lobe is affected.
Some imaging.
Yeah.
Luckily, there are new medications that are coming out to help to combat some of the plaques that do affect for Alzheimer's, but it's very expensive. It's new. There are a lot of side effects, but fingers crossed, we are on the right path for dementia and Alzheimer's patients. If a family member is coming to you saying, I need memory care, do you tend to recommend locations that are like a memory care, but that they break everybody up according to abilities? Or if they've been in an assisted living location that also has a different section of their building that's memory care, do you say, well, they've been there for a while, that just move into that location? What are you looking for, or what are you recommending when it comes to memory care?
Well, I base it on a number of things.
Okay.
So, memory care is a difficult decision.
Yes.
It's hard to see the progression. It's hard to see your loved one decline.
Yeah.
And there's some memory care apartments that don't have a private bathroom because it's a safety issue for your loved one, that they are afraid of the water, or they can't determine the temperature of the water and they could burn their skin. Yes. There's different things that you may not think about, but you've got to have the safety and the right number of caregivers around your loved one that can keep them safe. And it's very difficult in a really large memory care setting to have enough caregivers for your loved one. So I like to recommend a smaller caregiver building if possible. It's
how do you
hard.
feel? No, it is hard. It's super hard to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Memory care there's a wide array of needs and rates of decline. Is really hard, and I totally understand that. Like I've said before, my mom is in a memory care where they break everybody up according to their ability. So level 1, level 2, and level 3, and they are 3 different buildings. And the amount of people who live in each building varies. So my mom's level 1 only has 19 residents in it.
Love that.
It's great. And they tend to have a nurse in that building. All their meals are in that building, so they don't travel across the other building to the main one where the kitchen is. Everything is brought over to them. They have at least 2 or 3 caregivers for that building all the time, and an activities director for that building.
Nice.
So, and they are able to go on outings. So, because they're still have the ability to do that thing. I go on my mom's outings. My mom has some physical needs, so I tend to go with them. I put them on my calendar. I make sure she is able to participate. She would not be able to go on outings if I didn't go, because I have to give her meds. They are the caregiver. It's not a caregiver. So if a nurse is not there, no one else could give her meds. So the the activities director who takes them on the outings would not be able to give her medication. Even if I said it was okay, she's not allowed to. So that's why I go, so that I know she can participate, but also get her medication.
Well, it's a blessing you're able to do that. Not everybody.
No, I understand. I know it's a luxury. I understand that. These are things that my family, we have decided to make certain sacrifices and changes in our lifestyle and things like that, so that I am able to do these things.
That's awesome. You can do that.
So believe me, I understand not everybody is able to do that, but if you can, I highly suggest, or if Thursdays are outing day, and my mother doesn't want to go to every single one. Yeah. Like the one when they go to the tea room and the antique mall, she really doesn't want to do that. But we went to the museum, she wanted to go to that. So I made sure I made it a priority so that I could go. It's kind of
so sweet.
It's kind of like when you're a kid, you want to be they go on a field trip and you want to be the chaperone for the field trip. You make it that priority. Even if I was at work, I would try to make sure I had that time off to make it a priority to be able to go, just because it's so important. And it gets her out and she doesn't feel like she's missing out. And then, like I said, the other 2 buildings have different levels of care. Had my mom stayed at her last assisted living, and had to go to memory care. They do offer memory care, but it's a different section of the building. It has its own entrance codes, all those kinds of things, but it is everybody at every level is all together.
Right.
Which is very hard because you could have someone who is at the end stages of their Alzheimer's and dementia, and you have someone who's like my mother, who is still cognitively aware, still able to do things, but she would not be able to interact well with others. And I personally would have felt that she would have then isolated and languished and deteriorated quickly.
And that's the majority of places would be like that. And their outings would be really just a bus drive outing.
Yes.
Out. Yeah. And not physically getting off the bus. And so that's not really an outing.
That's not an outing.
It's just a drive.
It's a change of scenery.
Drive. Yeah. It's just
a change of scenery. Yeah.
So not really a sunshine.
Right.
Out to the park.
Yeah.
Get some fresh air. It's not even that. So
yeah.
You know, and so yeah, what you've decided is great.
Yeah,
wonderful that you were able to do that.
No, it was, and yet again, that comes with a cost. That my mother's location, like I've said in the past, is one of the more higher end memory care facilities. They are a national company, but they are well known across the company and within the industry as being some of the best and being some of the industry leaders when it comes to memory care. So we are lucky to have them in our area. Thank goodness. And like I've said in the past, they are so good to their employees that they have people who have been there for going on 10, 15 years, which is almost unheard of in any of the assisted living memory care world of employees. There, like I've said, there are people there that were my dad's nurses at the end of his life are still there today and now taking care of my mother. And my dad passed away 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So these kinds of things are very special, which was also a blessing to me for the fact that, like I've said, my dad passed away during COVID. So we were not allowed to be with him. And the nurses that were there when my dad was there and passed away and that are there now, I have been able to go and talk to them and to be able to finalize and to come to some closure that I wasn't able to have before because I wasn't able to be there with my dad at the end and neither was my mother. And I had questions, and to be able to have those people still be there and to be able to answer some of my questions and to alleviate some of the fears I still held on to was just a godsend.
Oh yeah.
And it was amazing. So that says, if you have a facility that really cares for their employees, really cares, their well-being also, they will stick around.
Yeah.
And so that's always nice to hear. Like you've said, to ask people, ask your friends, find Facebook pages, things where people can interact when it comes to caring for your loved ones.
Yeah.
Ask them, when have you lived here? Did your loved one live there? What was your experience? But also ask about dates. Because someone's experience from 5 years ago is not the same as what someone had maybe 2 weeks ago. So ask about when their loved ones lived there. Do they ask for names? Are the same people still in executive directors, medical staff, all this? Is there a certain caretaker that you loved? Are they still there? And if they are, then that says a lot. So I think those are really good things to look for and to talk about. And just don't be afraid to ask questions. Please don't be afraid to ask questions, because if you don't, then you won't know and you will be stuck. And maybe you're stuck in a location that you just hate or is not a good fit for your mom or your dad or your grandparent. It depends on who you're taking care of. But to ask those questions, don't be afraid to ask. I always say the answer is always no if you don't ask. So that is my philosophy.
Yeah, go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
Yeah.
And like I said, look for those little things, like when you're walking around on the tour, are people leaning? Are people, maybe there could be a patient or a resident or something else that they could be doing, but they're on their phone and you can see it's not anything for work. Like they're not hiding it. So those kinds of things, maybe look for it. And then ask the questions like at the end of the tour. They will say, do you have any other questions? Was there anything else I can ask? maybe bring it up and say, hey, is there a break room that people can go to hang out when it's their time? Because I saw someone hanging out on their phone. And maybe there isn't a break room and that's the only place they can sit for a moment. And then you have that answer. But if they say, yes, there is a break room, then they also know that maybe that person just needs to be reminded, or, hey, you need to put your phone away while you're at work.
Yeah.
I know that's something I feel that we need to say to everybody everywhere now, because your phone is all over the place. It's been helpful and it's not so helpful at the same time.
Right.
But I think, I don't know, are there other things that you want to cover or say?
I can't think of anything.
No?
else.
Okay. Well, there are. I hope you're able to come back on my show and maybe
I hope so too.
for some other episodes, and we can talk about more things.
Okay.
But I want to say thank you to Stephanie Duke. She's been great. Again, Stephanie Duke Resources. We are in the DFW area. Stephanie Duke Resources. She has a whole binder full. Workmen, caretakers, assisted livings, memory care, you name it. I'm sure we didn't cover it today, but I'm sure even hospice is in there. I'm going to have to bring you back on for hospice, because that's a whole nother subject, and it's not what everybody thinks it is.
Nope.
It's not just end of life care. So that is something that we can talk about in another episode, I believe.
Yes.
And how to find the right people to come help your loved ones.
That have a heart.
Yes, that have a heart. If you are in hospice, God bless you. God bless.
They are angels.
They are. And
sure.
A lot of people who are in this industry are angels, and they are doing the hard work that some of us just can't do. So, But thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Stephanie Duke. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out, and find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.